You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
O'clock. Dumelang. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show on this 25th day of March. Can you believe it? It's the 25th of March already. It's always great to be in your company. Thank you for joining us here on 702. I hope you're well this morning. Hello. If you're watching us on YouTube, the 702 open line starts now on 011-883-0702. You can send WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. So, the latest coming out of Washington, D.C., coming out of the Trump administration, is that America has achieved regime change in Iran. President Trump says there's now a new group that is in charge. This is what he said a few hours ago.
I hate to say it, but we killed all their leadership, and then they met to choose new leaders, and we killed all of them. And now we have a new group, and we can easily do that, but let's see how they turn out. We have really regime change. You know, this is a change in the regime because the leaders are all very different than the ones that we started off with that created all those problems. So this was, I think we can say, Jason, this is regime change, right? They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. It was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. It starts with no nuclear weapons, and they've agreed to that. There won't be any nuclear weapons. They're not going to have, and they're not going to have enrichment, any of those things. But look, I hate to say that we're in a very good bargaining position, and I hate to say that they're defenseless because, you know, until that last missile is fired, they have little power. But we are in about the best bargaining position.
So, he says there is now a new group that's in charge. They've sent them a really big present. I mean, he goes on to say, we get along with the person now that's in charge. The question, though, is, do you believe this? Like, who is this new group? Doesn't Iran have a newly appointed supreme leader? Remember, the Assembly of Experts in Iran elected Sayyid Moshtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which actually indicated that the hardliners are still very much firmly in charge. But then Trump has also indicated that the new supreme leader may be dead or seriously injured. Because why hasn't he spoken out in public?
Thanks, President Trump. What are your advisors telling you about the Ayatollah's son, the new supreme leader? What are they telling you about
Well, it's
him?
not only them, it's you people. I mean, a lot of people are saying that he's badly disfigured. They're saying that he lost his leg, one leg, and he's, been hurt very badly. Other people are saying he's dead. Nobody's saying he's 100% healthy. And he hasn't spoken because the Ayatollah would sit and he'd spew hate from a form of a throne. Not as nice as a throne. I like the English throne much better. But it was a fancy chair. But he'd spew hate from his chair. But you see him a lot, right? This one, we haven't seen at all. So that could be for a lot of different reasons. We don't know, Peter, if he's dead or not.
Oh, so we don't know if he's dead or not. But the question that Trump has been asking, and this was a few days ago, he's been saying, why hasn't he spoken out publicly? Is it not a fair question, though, to ask? Why hasn't the new Supreme Leader addressed Iranians? And maybe they are worried about his security. Maybe they're playing the U.S. They don't want the U.S. to know what they're working on. They want America to continue to think that the man could be dead or could be injured, but he's actually firmly running things behind the scenes. What do you think? Get in touch with us on 011-883-0702 or send a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702. And speaking of this war in the Middle East, South Africa now continues to feel this pressure of rising living costs. And now these global events are adding even more uncertainty. I mean, on the one hand, there are more signs of improvement. You've got consumer confidence that has ticked up slightly in the first quarter of the year, particularly among higher income households. And that's been helped by the lower interest rates and a stronger rand. But that optimism may actually be short-lived. Economists are now warning that this ongoing conflict in the Middle East, particularly there in Iran, could drive up oil prices, which then pushes up fuel, transport, food costs, you name it. And when fuel goes up, everything else follows, from groceries to flights, putting even more strain on the already stretched household budget. And you've got South Africans that are already dealing with high debt, limited disposable income, meaning any increase in costs hits harder and forces difficult trade-offs. So while some households may have started the year feeling slightly more confident, the reality is that this global instability could quickly change the picture. And I'd like to know what your lived experiences are. How have you been affected? Are you already starting to see and feel the impact of the war in the Middle East, either through the travels that you've had to cancel? Maybe you run a business and you are directly impacted. How is the current state of the world right now affecting your finances and your plans for the year? Are you having to adjust your household budget? Are you cutting back on transport, on groceries, on entertainment? I mean, have you even put travel plans on hold because of the rising costs or because of the conflict and the uncertainty that it has caused? 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
Clement, Trump has lost his marbles. Because if you were to think about what he's saying, he's basically willing his vision into the universe as if that's a real thing. And it's not. But then let me just remind you, you are talking about a Trump who met the president of Puerto Rico. That's the same Trump you're talking about. Had great chats with the president of Puerto Rico. Sounds about an Isma Khashoggi, if you ask me, talking to the chairman, who then speaks to the Secretary General, Trump.
Clement, good morning. I mean, it's you who said that one thing that we have observed about Donald Trump, that he is decisive, and then we can say whatever, but at the end of the day, Iran is no match to America. They can try to attack the countries that are in the Middle East in support of America, but at the end of the day, Iran will fall. No one will stop America. I mean, we all know it's a fact. No one will stop America. Even NATO, they are aware that without America, they are as good as nothing. And I'm not promoting or condoning what America is doing, but that country is too powerful militarily, so their budget spending is so overwhelming the other countries combined. So what can we say?
Good morning, Clement and the listeners. Listening to the clip you just played about Donald Trump, the one question that comes to mind, and it's because of the confusion from a lack of knowledge on my side. And I would appreciate if somebody can school me on this one. At what point does the criminal court, the International Criminal Court, play a role? At what point does it apply? And because here's somebody who's openly admitting to killing people. Let's put aside the reasons, but he's openly admitting to killing people, and life goes on as normal. So I would really like to get some form of education or assistance in terms of the role that is played by International Criminal Court, and at what point can we expect it to do something from this level. Slindy Immigrant.
Yeah, Slee. Look, the America is not a member of the International Criminal Court, in my understanding. They're not a member. Yes, they signed the Rome Statute, if I'm not mistaken, in around 2000 or so. But it never ratified the treaty. And in fact, at some point, the Bush administration formally withdrew that signature in 2002. So, and maybe that does make sense, hey? When you look at what America has actually done in a number of countries, yeah? Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Venezuela, and maybe you can go on and on and on. But can you imagine how tricky their relationship with the ICC would be? So maybe that's understandable that they are not a member of the ICC, given their own context and their actions. But that's just the response on that. But it's wild. The way we've gotten used to things that are not even normal. Heads of state speak openly about, we've killed that leader of government, that head of state. Like, it's no longer bizarre anymore. We've abducted that head of state. It's no longer like a strange thing to say. And that just tells you how the world has completely moved and changed. It's no longer the world we were used to. 23 minutes after 9.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
So here's another question on the open line this morning. I was talking to the producers about this. Have you ever felt pressured to give at church or at the synagogue or wherever you go to, whether to worship or to pray or, where you go to speak to the higher source, or to go and fellowship with people? Have you ever felt the pressure to give? There was a video that did the round, in fact, that started this conversation of people in church, and there's a woman who pretends like she's giving. It was quite a funny video, but it really raised some serious questions because people began to comment of how that's actually the experience that they have sometimes when they go to church. And I really struggled to rationalize that. And I thought, let's do like a sort of a temperature check. Have you ever felt the pressure to give in church? And what do you think churches should do, or these places of worship or fellowship should do, so that people don't feel less than because they're unable to give on that day or in that moment, so that they don't feel pressured to give? Because sometimes you've got religious leaders who stand there and say, no, that 100 rand you have, God is saying, trust him with that. And some people end up feeling the pressure too. And that's not to say they shouldn't listen to what God is supposedly saying through the religious leader. But some people do it out of, I'm under pressure to, and not because they necessarily feel the need to do it. And I wonder what your context is. Maybe you go to a church that you've picked up does that. How do you deal with a scenario like that? Do you ever feel embarrassed when you're not giving? When that basket comes, does it get awkward when you hand it over to the next person without necessarily throwing 5 rand or 10 rand or whatever amount in there? How do we deal with that? And how do we create an environment, especially in churches, where people do not feel under pressure? And yes, they do it because they really want to, or they do it because they've appreciated the message, or they just want to help the church, but it's not because they feel under pressure and they feel less than when they are not giving. Please share your thoughts with us on that on 011-883-0702. We'll take your WhatsApps as well after the break on 07.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
29 minutes after 9 o'clock. Let's start with you, Shlochi in Tembisa. What do you want to say? Good morning.
Hi, Clement, how are you?
All right, man. Go ahead.
I'm good, yeah. No, Clement, I think first we need to define that we give out of faith, out of God's promise, not out of compulsion from a religious leader. You know, it's basically you giving out of faith, believing that God will reward that, whatever that you have giving. But when religious leaders start now imposing and saying you must give so much, I think people then are taught wrongly. The giving part starts from being taught that it is a relationship that you build with God to give a little bit, and then from there the rewards will come.
Yeah, but Shlochi, have you picked up, Shlochi, that there is now this trend of religious leaders who say, I can hear the Lord say 3,000 rand for your deliverance, or I can see someone in the church right now who is praying for a job. God says, give whatever you have right now. Give all of it now. Have you never heard them say that?
No, they do, and, and I'll tell you. But the biggest problem with followers, especially, is that they don't read the Bible. You understand? And they actually now are dependent on being taught the Bible, of understanding the principles of what giving actually entails.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean is that they are being pumped up, they are being driven to say, give, this is what the Lord is. But believe you me, you can give on a Monday, you can give on a Wednesday, you can give. Not supposed to be only a Sunday pumped up thing. So it's a relationship that you need to. I'm giving because I'm trusting the promise of God.
Yeah, or maybe you're giving because you're helping the church. I'm one person who believes in also giving to help the church, because the church does important work. Sometimes when I can't go to church, I watch on YouTube. You know, it's a lot of money to produce that kind of service on YouTube and for it to be live. And I appreciate. And also, pastors they don't have day-to-day jobs, most of them or some of them, so they need to be taken care of by the church. So this is not to say people must not give, but there's a trend now where people feel the pressure to, where the pastors will say, that I see somebody in the congregation right now who's got a pain on the bag. Ba 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 shia shia shia. Are you that person? Stand up now and give that money. God will save you. It's sad that that's where things are getting to. I'm just worried that there are people in the church who are now feeling embarrassed because they just don't have that money to give in that moment. How do we make our fellowship environments, churches, synagogues, environments where people don't feel less than and they are not played on their emotions? And I think, as Shlochi says, it starts with you also understanding the word so that you are not preyed on. It's 9:32.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
23 minutes before 10 o'clock. Let's start with your WhatsApp voice notes. Lintikile, Carol, Simon, I see you. I'll start with your calls after this.
Good morning, Clement. In regards to the giving at church, when I was living in Durban, and now reside in Johannesburg, when I was living in Durban, I should go to this one church. I'm not talking bad about the church, but the pastor, if you did not pay so-called tithes in the church every month, you would receive a letter from the church stating that you haven't paid tithes for the past 2 or 3 months. Because when we should give tithes, we were requested to walk to the front of the church, and there was somebody holding the basket in the front, and you put your money or your tithes into it. So when you were not going in the front, people should turn and look at you. And, I understand the people looking at you and thinking, oh, you're not paying tithes, but you're here at church. We're not going to church to pay tithes. We're going to hear the word of God. Thank you, dear Johannesburg.
Hi, Clement. So us at our church, they do first on a normal Sunday when you go there and it's time to give, there will be first round and second round because they are targets. So there will be a target that they set for the day. Maybe there will be umnikelo must maybe reach an amount of 2,000, just making an example. And when it doesn't, after everyone has sat down and has given, they will be run to that coin that you you have there, bring it in. And then those monthly, yearly appreciations to the pastors. There are minimum amounts there that maybe you can't give. Okay, not that you can't, but they set a minimum amount to say minimum amount of appreciation that one has to put in is minimum of maybe 1,000 going upwards. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's quite wild. Hey, Carol, you calling us from Vereeniging. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sure,
Good
sure.
morning. Yeah. So my belief and understanding from reading the word, you've got tithing and you've got Thanksgiving. So no member of church or any believer should feel the pressure and feel guilty towards the pastor or the church. The only guilt you should have is you not listening and following the command of God that is in the Bible. He specifically says, and it states 10% of your earnings. 10% can be physical money. It could be a trade, a skill that you have, because that is what you are able to give. But then it is 10% of your worth, of your earnings, or whoever you are in the environment that you're in. So it is critical to actually read and know your Bible. A pastor who preaches otherwise is not a godly pastor.
Okay. Carol in Vereeniging, thank you. Simon, you are in Durban. What are your thoughts? Hi.
Hi, Clement. How are you?
I'm all right, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, Clement, voluntary giving for me is meant to be something that's very personal, a thoughtful decision, and not to be giving under compulsion or for public recognition. However, what I'm noticing now, and this happens more in the so-called Pentecostal church, I'm not saying all of them, because I also go to a Pentecostal church. So I see now that more and more people are told that the more you give, the more you get blessed, which is not true. Because it then means that if I pay 10,000 rands, this is someone that pays 500 rands, then I get blessed more because I paid more. No, it's actually wrong. In fact, it happens more from what I think, from where I'm standing. In those types of churches where the giving is one way towards the church, and often it's one person that is in charge, and the money doesn't go out. Whenever someone needs to be helped, one of the brothers needs to be helped, the Bazalwane needs to pay again. Nothing comes from the church coffers going out, but everything comes towards the church. And then now and then you'll see people stand up. If you have a big building project, all those that are going to contribute 10,000 rands, please stand up. All those that are going to contribute 6,000 rands. So now we are labeling people now. So this one is better than that one. The ones that don't stand up, okay, so these are black sheep of the house. Very, very unfair.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Thank you for
Simon,
picking this up, Clement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. I mean, I do think we need to have these conversations because we've got people who go to church who listen to us. We've got pastors who listen to us. And I don't know, maybe some pastors feel the pressure and they're too desperate because they need the money because they have to pay the bills but there's a way to go about it. I think there's a way to go about it. I mean, in recent time, it's gotten out of control. Listen to this one, because someone just alerted us to this clip of, who's this now? Abel? Marvin Sapp? This is one of the pastors in America. Listen to how he did it in his church.
And they understand the cost that is involved. There's 1,000 of you. I said close them doors. Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors. Close the doors. We all gonna leave together. Y'all ain't going no place but to the restaurant. There's 1,000 of you tonight, and those that are watching, it's 1,000 that's watching online. This is a small seed. If I get 1,000 online to give this, if I get 1,000 in the sanctuary to give this, that's $40,000 tonight. I'm challenging each of you all down here to give a $20 seed. I just think $20 is a lot of money. $20, believe it or not, when my late wife Melinda P. Sapp was alive, was a good date. I could take her to the movies, buy a box of popcorn, get 1 soda, 2 straws. I wasn't cheap, that's swag. I was looking in her eyes, she's looking in mine.
It's actually quite cringe, yeah. So cringe worthy. Close the doors? Wild. Lintikile, you calling from Centurion. Good morning.
Hi, Manyathela. How are you? Sir, I have to say, giving in church is an act of worship. And people get lost because they miss that important fact. It's an act of worship. Mm-hmm. I'll make an example. In the congregation where I'm worshiping here in Centurion, when the time of giving comes, the stewards will go out, and then whoever has will put the offering. If they do not have, they don't put. And I want you to understand this. Because I'm a pastor, I'm standing in front. Mm. When I have, I give. When I do not have, I don't give. And I don't feel less of those who have given today. Mm. Because for me, giving is an act of worship. And the one whom I'm worshiping knows that today I do not have. Mm. And so I don't mind who's watching, who's not watching. It's between me and God. Mm-hmm. Giving is between one person and God. And so I'm ashamed of what we are doing as pastors in the Church of Christ, because we put money first, people after. Mm. And that's what actually makes the church to people to have this sour taste about church. Yeah. Giving is between one person and God, and you give what you have, and that is done.
Yeah, you don't need to push people and be too convincing. Just explain how important giving is. That's it. Explain how important giving is. Read a scripture. Allow people to, if they can, provide different options for them to do it. That's it. But yeah. Lintikile in Centurion, thank you for your call. Things have just completely changed these days. More of your WhatsApps on 072 702 1702.
And the team and the listeners. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 verse 7 is talking about a cheerful giver. That God wants us to give us cheerfully, not with obligation. I think what we need to do as congregants, we need to be more into the word. What is the Bible saying? It's not about the preacher. I mean, rather, Zweli, my 2 cents. Ciao.
Good morning, Clement and your team. Religious leaders at Clement, they emphasize that verse before that process of giving. There are those who have got even specific amount that you need to put as a tithe in church. These days, church is no longer about praying, Clement. It's all about making money. I see a lot of dodgy pastors, even the congregation buy cars for them, or even paying their rent for that matter. It's a very murky situation, and they do target single parent. They are the most vulnerable people in our society, from Max in Pretoria.
So hi Clement. So anonymous here. I went to a church somewhere. And because obviously the tithing had reduced, they started or they announced that what they're going to do now is if you are found to not be tithing, they will announce to people at church on Sunday that aren't tithing. So subsequently, I actually left the church because what do you mean you're going to announce Guti tithanga? So I think that's not what the church spirit or what I believe in. So
yeah, we need to do better, but also we are custodians of the church, and we need to be able to raise these issues with our religious leaders. Hey, also it's so tough because some pastors are so sensitive. Now you become you're sent by the devil when you raise a concern that I think how we're going about this giving thing is starting to make people feel out of place or feel like they don't belong or they feel like they're failing because they just don't have the resources that the church keeps desperately calling out for. You know who also disappointed me recently? Juanita Bainham. I mean, for the longest time, she's been and continues to be one of my favorite gospel artists. And I recently saw a video of her. My goodness.
Like you have never seen. Like you have never seen. $1,066 is nothing. You can get money back. Yes, Lord. He just said 5 more people are sitting here deciding, but you're not deciding about money, you're deciding about your future. You're not deciding about money, you're deciding about your future. He said, come now. This isn't about money, this is about your future.
It's literally about money.
This is about the restoration of your faith. God wants some people to pay some bills for him. He said, everywhere you go. He said, I will handpick 21 people in the building.
Hey, yo. So what? God said there are 21 people in that building who must pay 1,000 what? Dollars? And then she says it's nothing. Come on. God says there's 5 of you here that are sitting there. This is about your restoration. Now you're playing to people's emotions now. That's not cool. It's just not cool. 10 minutes before 10.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
On 702.
7 minutes before 10 o'clock. Isa, you're in Killarney. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. First time on your show.
Welcome.
Thanks. Clement, religion has got nothing to do with God. It's a business entity. It can be bought with money. It goes to a normal registration. There's a marketing team. There's a business projection report. What you say, what you do. It's all about money. There's also, when the pastor dies, there's a successor. The successor is always going to be a family entity. The business continues. However, faith is an inheritance. You either inherit good faith or you inherit bad faith. Bad faith is when your people in the past or people in the past, your elderly that come past, have put in traditional beliefs or were indoctrinated to believe that if you don't bless the pastor, you don't do this in your church or in a mosque or in a temple, you will be cursed or you will be damned. Lastly, I want to say, in the time of Jesus, it was these very high priests and pastors that were affected because Jesus was telling the truth. And they plotted to crucify him because it hurt their pocket. I tell you this, Clement, in this modern time, if Jesus has to come back now, it's the very high priests, the very churches, the very so-called religious leaders that will be the first in the forefront, picking up the spears and the guns and the knives to go and kill Jesus. They won't even recognize him.
Because he would be disrupting their business.
Yes, he's going to come and disrupt. Who wants their business to be disrupted? Nobody.
Yeah, Isa, great contribution there in Killarney. Thank you. Jack, you're in Pretoria. Hi.
Hi, Clement. Imagine sitting in church and the pastor or so-called tells you that so-and-so did not pay. That is intimidation and robbery. They should open cases.
But you are now sent by the devil, Jack. Open a case.
You open a case against this pastor. Is actually intimidating you. And why is this pastors not contributing themselves?
Well, they do contribute, Jack.
How do they do? No, they don't.
So there's some pastors who
like
don't.
I'm saying, I used to go to church when I was young, I was forced to go to church by my parents. But I don't go to church myself now. I've never seen anyone from that pulpit contributing. None of them.
I've seen that, Jack. Also, to be fair, but thanks for your call, Jack and Pretoria. To be fair, there are pastors who, even from the pulpit, they'll take out money and say, okay, let's give. And they give. Often, and many I've seen are intentional about that because they want you to see that they're also contributing. But also, you must remember that there are a lot of pastors that have put in so much investment in building that church. So that building that you go into, probably they had to save money while they had a 9-to-5 corporate job to make sure that there's a building. They often have to come in where there's water that's needed in the church while the church is still small. And maybe we start complaining when the church is way too big and you can see the pastor driving a Maserati or a Porsche and you think, ooh, it's the money of the church. But also, do we know about what the pastor has had to sacrifice? I'm just saying, there's another side to this, but that doesn't take away the fact that our experiences more and more these days are that there's just this desperation with money to a point that there are certain pastors who are willing to make people feel bad for not having something to give at church. And I just think that is missing the mark, because a church is supposed to be a home, supposed to be a place where you belong. Shouldn't be feeling pressured to do something you're unable to do. If anything, you should feel embraced and supported so that one day you're able to do what you want to do.
Hi, Clem. Very brave of you to raise this topic. I've been contemplating on writing a paper on it or a book. I'm a theologian. I'd like to stay anonymous at this point in time. However, I need to point this out. It's very sensitive. Faith can stand or fall on this topic. Emotions can rise and fall on this topic, etc., etc. And I wish that this topic could be explored, further, better late than never, because I think this could have actually taken the center stage, in my view, probably more than a decade ago. But once more, better late than never, and you've got someone that is prepared to engage the topic like yourself. And we are happy. And please, next time, if you engage this topic again, I would like to be in the loop. Thank you.
Look, next time when we engage this topic, we must do a live audience, and all of you will have to, contribute something. We'll have a basket. When we do the show next time we discuss this, we'll invite you here. But there'll be a basket doing the rounds for your wonderful, heartfelt, God-appreciated contributions. How about that, It's 2 minutes before 10.